Hey guys, welcome to Unit 3 Lesson 7, which is just more practice with factoring and solving. With this one again, our goal in the last video was to get everything equal to 0 because we wanted to factor on the left side and then solve for the values that would make the entire thing equal to 0. So this first problem, we need to move everything on the right side by doing the opposite. So I'm going to add 4x and subtract 10, both sides. So we get 2x squared plus 7x minus 15, and then the other side we get 0. So since our a value is not 1, we're going to want to do the box method. Don't have a ton of room here, I apologize for that. I'm going to do it on the side. So it's a times c, which is going to give us negative 30, and then our b value is 7. So factors of negative 30 that have a difference of 7. Well, 3 and 10 jump into my mind. Since it's a negative 30, but it's a positive 7, the smaller number is going to be the negative here. So now I'm going to do my box. So the first box is that 2x squared. Last box is negative 15. And then these are the sides. So we get negative 3x and 10x. So going left to right, first 2x squared and 10x, we can take a 2x out of both of those. And then negative 3 and negative 15 both have a factor of 3, but since they're negatives, we can do negative 3. Now going up and down, 2x squared and negative 3x both have an x, and then 10x and negative 15 have a positive 5. So this factors to 2x minus 3 and x plus 5, which equals 0. So the first one, we got to do a little bit more work, because remember, if there's a number in front of x, we need to set it equal to 0. So we add 3, we get 2x equals 3, divide by 2, x equals 3 halves for the first one. And then the second one, since it's x plus 5, it's just the opposite, so then it's minus 5 for our answer. All right. Going on to the right side here, 3x squared minus 15 equals 4x. Excuse me. We need to move that 4x to the other side, so I'm going to subtract 4x. We get 3x squared minus 4x minus 15 equals 0. So for this one, we can't take anything out of the GCF because the greatest common factor is 1. So we're going to need to do the box method again. Old reliable. So a times c, b. A times c in this one is going to give us negative 45 because it's 3 times negative 15, and then difference of 4. So factors of 45, 1 and 45, 3 and 15, and then 9 and 5. And 9 and 5 have a difference of 4. So since it's negative, though, the bigger number's got to be negative. So we get negative 9, positive 4, or positive 5. Keep writing this a little too close. Okay, first box, we go 3x squared. Last box, we get negative 15. And remember, we get those from the first term, last term. And then the sides, minus 9x, positive 5x. And then we do the greatest common factor for each of these. So these two, it's going to just be x. These two, it's going to be negative 3 because they're both negatives. And then going up and down, 3x squared and negative 9x both can take a 3 out as well as an x. And then 5x and negative 15 is positive 5. So we get 3x plus 5 and x minus 3 equals 0. Okay, so I'm going to set the first one equal to 0 and solve because it's got a number in front of x. 3x equals negative 5, then we divide by 3. We get two solutions, x equals negative 5/3, and then the other one, since this is just x minus 3, it's just the opposite, so it's positive 3. I'm just going to draw a little arrow. Went off course there a little bit. Okay, next let's do these bottom ones. So right away we can take out a 4x, and then we would get 2x plus 2x squared plus 3x minus 2 equals 0 for that one. Okay. Just because I'm running out of room and we should know how to do the box method, I'm going to save us some time. If you were to do the box method, what you should get is 2x and then an x here equals 0. And then it would be plus 2 and minus 1 like that. Because 2 times 2 would give us positive 4, negative 1 times x would give us negative 1, and then positive 4x minus 1x would give us 3x. So we did do it right there. Okay, so now what we would do is just solve for each one of these. Remember, if there's an x on the outside though, that is one of our solutions. And an x on the outside is just going to be x equals 0. So these two are easy to find the answers for. We would get x equals 0. We would get x equals negative 2 because of the x plus 2. But this is the one where we got to do a little bit more work. So I'm going to solve for that. I'm going to set it equal to 0. I'm going to add 1 to both sides. Even if this seems tedious, you're more likely to not mess up rather than trying to do that in your head. Some people are able to do that in their head, which is fine, but just please be careful with that. So there's our three solutions: x equals 0, negative 2, and 1/2. Now this one over here, x squared minus 25. Notice we're missing the middle term. And the other thing we have to notice is these are perfect squares. So this is one of those special patterns. So it's an x and an x. 25 comes from 5 times 5 plus minus, which means we get two types of solutions. We get x equals positive 5 and x equals negative 5. All right, we're almost to the end here. So we can take a 3 out of everything in this first example. 3, and then we're left with x squared minus x minus 6 equals 0. So I'm going to keep the 3 on the outside. X squared minus x minus 6. So with this one, we know that we can separate it out. We don't have to do the box method here. It would come from x and x, factors of 6 that have a difference of minus 1. So signs are different. Since it's a minus, the bigger number has to be negative, so it's going to be negative 3 and positive 2. Now, this is the tricky thing, is there's no x on the outside. Yes, we do have a number on the outside, but that doesn't give us a solution. 3 doesn't equal 0, so that doesn't make sense. But if we have an x next to it, then we can solve for it. But since there's no x, we only have the two solutions from inside the parentheses. Okay, so x plus 2 is going to give us negative 2, and then x minus 3 is going to give us positive 3. So there's our two answers on that one. This one is another special pattern. It's the two perfect squares subtracting from each other. So it's 2x and 2x, because that's how we get 4x squared, and then 3 and 3 plus minus. Now, since these are the same thing with just a different sign, we only need to solve for one of these, and then the other one's just going to be the opposite answer. So let's do the 2x plus 3. We'll set that equal to 0. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. 2x equals negative 3. I'm going to divide by 2. So we get x equals negative 3/2. But if that one's negative 3/2, the other one's going to be just the opposite, which is positive 3/2. All right, and then